Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday, the 19th of March, 2017. Next week, don't forget, it's Mother's Day. So just a reminder for the people that have mothers, just get the card in. Now, on Friday we had Patrick's Day. We hope you had a great Patrick's Day. The weather was atrocious. But then again, most Patrick Days, the weather's normally atrocious anyway. It's always raining and spitting and cold and miserable most of the time anyway. But, you know, it was the parades went on. Fair play to the Irish spirit. And a lot of people had a great Patrick's Day. I hope you enjoyed it. How's your Patrick's Day?
We were at the one, we weren't at our own one in the village where I live. We were actually another one in a village called Athboy, County Meath, because my son was actually in the parade with the Taekwondo club. And yeah, it actually poured down rain. And by the time he finished, he was like a drowned rat. So he had to be taken home, showered and shampooed and everything. But yeah, a complete washout. Exactly,
yeah. Well, there you go. That's what happens over in Ireland. The weather's that bad. But everybody was cheery anyway. That's a good thing. Right, our guest on the show tonight is a chap called John White. Now, we've mentioned this machine. He's the designer of the Spooky2. And everybody's kind of saying, what's the Spooky2? Well, it's a healing device. And that's all I'm saying about it, because I'm going to get John to explain all about the actual device. Now, John is actually in China at the moment, so you can imagine it's kind of silly o'clock over there.
I think it's 3 a.m. over there at the moment.
Yeah, it's probably 3 a.m. and we appreciate John staying up to do the live interview on OAM. Now, he's probably sitting there in his pyjamas and his cup of Horlicks, just trying to stay awake. So we're going to get John in straight away. We normally read out a few things that happen during the week, and then Alan's and Steve's week. You know the usual format. But for this time, we're going to get John on, because we don't want to keep John up any later than what we can or what we need to, because it's going to be a late night for John. It's late at the moment. So without further ado, Steve's going to... What's up?
Well, we do the old communication channel.
Oh, sorry.
I know we're breaking with tradition and breaking with format, but we have to let people know.
Sorry, let's find out what the communication channel is.
Yes, okay, here we go.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, the phone number again, 046 927 1212. If you want to call in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 469 271212. We also have the chat rooms as well, on the website there, oymradio.com. You will see the link there for the chat room. A big hi to everyone who's logged in there already. I hope you have a nice evening. And also People's Internet Radio. We're going to be monitoring that both of the chat rooms for questions for John this evening. We also have the usual links on the website there for the Twitter, the Facebook's anti-social media, the YouTube channel as well. We also have the TuneIn Radio application. There's a link there on the website as well. That is a free app where you can check us out 24 hours a day on your smartphone, iPhone, on your tablet, etc. So all bases covered. Anyway, welcome along everybody. Hope you enjoy the show.
That's what happens when you change the protocol or change the format. You see, you get all flustered. Anyway, not to worry. Let's soldier on. Now, Steve, if you want to do the bio on John, and then we'll get John in and we'll crack on.
Okay, just in relation to John White of Spooky2. John grew up in a small rural town in New Zealand. His parents ran a TV repair shop with lots of cool tools and parts to fiddle around with. They moved to Auckland and John started an electrical apprenticeship in a large factory that made fast foods. The man who taught John the necessary skills was an amazing man called Peter Garbett. Peter taught John everything. He taught him two very important lessons. The first was how to design circuits so they actually worked. The second was to be humble and think. Peter Garbett decided that John needed a greater challenge, so he told him to commence an engineering degree. He got John to do an advanced trade papers A and B, industrial control, and also C and D, electronics, whilst completing the trade certificates theory papers and continuing the engineering papers. Late in the third year of my 4-year apprenticeship, Peter became ill, John said. He was a smoker and developed lung cancer. Peter subsequently died in the same year as John's grandfather and his grandmother. shortly after from cancer. John decided that he needed to do more learning to fight this illness that took his loved ones away. John's interest in Rife technology started about 14 years previously. Rife was a humble genius who proved that cancer had a viral origin and could be cured. John had a desire to learn as much as he could about his work and proceeded to dig into his history. In July 2010, a man with the name of Johan Stegman informed John that a Rife machine made in South Africa had remarkable healing qualities. John decided right then that he would start his own clinic to remotely treat people suffering from this appalling illness. The same month, he formed the company Cancer Clinic, located in his sister's office space in New Zealand. John treated very sick people who had been told that there was no hope of recovery. Without charging a fee, John did all he could to prevent them from dying. In almost all cases, he achieved this goal. His greatest contribution to humanity is Spooky. Developed over several years, it has grown into an amazing healing system. Already, it has the largest database of any healing system on the planet. The next release of Spooky will have a database with over 40,000 different ailments. The Spooky movement has grown exponentially, and this is just the beginning, with more exciting projects underway. Now John lives in China, and each day is spent improving on the Spooky and improving the lives of many people.
Brilliant stuff, Steve. Good evening, John. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Listen, thanks a lot for coming on. Sorry, you jumping in there.
Oh, no, it's just a bit of a delay in the audio. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. There is a little bit of a delay. We have to allow for that. Again, thank you, John, for coming on. I know it's silly o'clock over in your time, and you probably have your cup of Horlicks beside you there. But as you say, the live show is always good. We have our listeners who are logging in and who will probably have questions for you. But, okay, we mentioned the Spooky2 machine on our show leading up to this interview, and people are going, number one, what is it? Number two, why is it called Spooky2? So maybe that's where we should start off with.
Certainly. Well, what is Rife technology? Royal Rife was a man who lived in the 1920s. He found that applying frequencies to germs made them die. What he's doing is he's applying frequencies that suit the germ, and it makes the germ resonate. And so they eventually explode, and they become history. What Spooky does is follow in his footsteps and applies frequencies to germs to make them disabled.
Okay, now necessity is the mother of invention, as you say, and you had people in your life, your mentor and your grandparents that passed away through cancer. And cancer is hitting so many people. You know, they're saying 1 or 2 people would get cancer in their lifetime. And I don't know anybody who doesn't have a relative or somebody in the family that's passed away or had cancer. So it's a major disease. You know, is it something that's natural? I don't know. There's a question mark over that. Other people would say it is. Other people say that it's actually it's something that was it's designed using various either drugs or in our food or in our environment. Different ways that it can be caused. But the Rife technology, for people who don't understand, they need to go and do a bit of research on Royal Raymond Rife. This guy was just a phenomenal guy. And to add to what John said there, he found a way to resonate technology. He had I believe it was a frequency generator, which was designed by I think it was Lee Forrester at the time, who was the father of the radio, and they designed a frequency generator that put out a frequency powerful enough to actually vibrate on the same frequency as the germ to kill it. Would that be about right, John?
Yes, it is. And regarding your comments with regards to cancer, we are living in a very, very toxic environment and a very toxic planet. It's covered with all, we've got foods which are Frankenstein foods, really. We're in our attempts to become modern and improve things, we're actually going backwards. We should be eating the foods that our grandparents used to eat. Cancer didn't used to be as prevalent then as it is now. And so, yes, we do need to make changes. We need to improve the way that we're thinking.
And, well, it's all about money by the manufacturers, isn't it, John? It's all about finding the cheapest way to produce the food. We have talked about this on the show, and Steve has an example regarding cheese. Do you want to talk about just that example again?
Yeah, well, just very quickly, we'll say, yes, I mean, we all know cheese, how cheese is made, but my daughter actually tried some cheese there several weeks ago, and it was called a vegan cheese, and like everything else, she tried it, so I tried it as well, and I also read the ingredients, and there was a lot of different concoctions in the ingredients, but one of them was cheese flavour, and you're kind of thinking, if you took the cheese flavour away, what have you got? Probably just, I don't know, plastic. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely Frankenfoods. That's exactly what we're eating these days.
Exactly. All about saving money and the bottom line, and it's all corporations and everything else. So, it's, as I say, necessity, the mother of invention. Now, your background, John, is highly technical. And I didn't really touch base, on the bio there. We didn't really go into it. But do you want to talk really just about your background and how technical you are and the stuff you've been doing, so people understand, how you know about this stuff?
Gosh, the subject I love the most, talking about myself. Well, yes, I'm technical, both in my training but also by nature, and so I'm drawing from my background there, my formal training, and I've done a lot of casual research as well. But I'm certainly not I'm not a super smart person, but I'm drawing from a large pool of people that I consider much more clever than myself. Spooky is a large team. We've got a huge forum with contributing members, and they suggest ideas and I implement them, or they implement them. And this is what's making Spooky grow so quickly. And I didn't actually answer your question before, my brain's half asleep, of why we decided to call it Spooky. It's because in the beginning, the only way that we used to apply frequencies is through remote treatments, where we can have a person's DNA and treat the DNA, and the link between the sample and the DNA that's stored in the person was the means by which the frequencies were transmitted to that person. And it's unbelievable. We thought, well, that's kind of spooky, so we decided to call it that. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and so he coined his phrase.
Right, okay, so just let's clarify that, because this will blow people's minds, right? So, say we get a spooky machine here, right? And according to what I've read about the Spooky2, is that you have a little plug-in device, and what you do is you can take somebody's fingernail, which has their DNA, and you put the fingernail in this device, and you go down the actual software, and it has, as you said before we went live, 40,000 different symptoms that it can treat. And you select the system that you want to treat that person with. And through let's call it the unified source field, for want of a better word, you might have a different name for it, you can heal somebody. So they don't even have to be in the room. They could be across the world, but you could actually do that.
That's correct. And it's not a belief system. It just works. And with Johann Stegman, you just mentioned him before, I spent a few months proving him wrong. This didn't work, and then in the end I did things correctly. I followed his description on how to do it. It just was amazing, so I decided to pursue that and made this little thing that you plug into our generator. We could have made it very fancy but we thought, no, we'll make it as cheap as possible. So we made it without even a case. It's just a printed circuit board. That's the bare bones, so everyone can afford it.
Yeah, well, I have to say that. I have to give credit to you, and I said it before the show. The fact that when I heard about the Spooky2, I thought, oh, here we go. We'll go along to the website, and they'll want £600 or £700 to buy the Spooky2. But it's actually priced very reasonable for most people to actually buy it, which is fantastic, because that means people who don't have a high income or don't have money, which is me and Steve, we'd be in a position to be able to afford it and use it. Now, before we move on, I'm sure people were scratching their head when we said you don't have to be in the room. You could be across the world and get treated. And I mentioned the unified source field. Do you want to go into detail regarding, you know, the theory or well, I won't say theory because we know it exists, and we've had other people on the show like the burn doctors who do the same thing. But do you want to talk about that process and how it works?
I'll do it briefly. It's quantum entanglement. When two atoms can be associated with each other, but still be apart. What the scientists were finding is that, well, what they do find and still can't really explain it properly, is how two particles can be separated by a great distance, and you do something to one molecule and it's mirrored in the other. It's I've never read a good article that explains to me just how it works, because I don't believe they know. And so it still is spooky.
Right.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we had a group of people on, our lady on, representing a group of people called the Burn Doctors, and they weren't selling a device, but what they did, there was a free service. If you burned yourself, like if you got a 3rd-degree burn, you would ring up the number within half an hour of the burn, and they could tap into the unified source field, and all you need to do is give them your name, your date of birth, and where you were born, and they could tap into your source field and actually do a repair on your burn. So maybe the whole DNA thing is, again, we're all unique in our own way, like snowflakes and fingerprints. That in the unified source field that we have, we are unique in our ID. And what the machine is doing through DNA is actually tracking us down and able to pick us up. Because, again, it goes back to we are all energy. We're all energy vibrating and resonating on a frequency. You know, the whole thing is like the Matrix. You know, if you could see the Matrix and see the energy, all you would see is atoms vibrating. And we talk about this all the time, about what we are energy. And we've heard people talk about how they can manipulate that energy in so many different ways. Really advanced stuff in energy manipulation. So obviously you're tapping into this. Now, how did you work out the frequencies? I mean, you said you have a database of 40,000. How did you work out the frequencies for each disease or each symptom?
We started off by consolidating a lot of the frequency sets that were out there and removing all the garbage ones, the repeating ones. David Burke, he went through our main database and put in useful descriptions, did the homework. He's part of a core team member. He lives in Ireland, by the way. Hi, David. I'm sure you're listening in. The other database entries that we have are relatively new. There's a molecular weight database where every molecular weight for many different chemicals and compounds are in this database, and you can emulate, instead of taking a drug if you really must have to, you can apply the molecular weight of that drug and it'll have the same effect. And there's also a base pair frequency which relies on the physical structure of one's DNA or the DNA of the pathogen that you're wishing to target. And these, like the molecular weight database entries, are calculated very precisely. And
so are you saying that if somebody has prostate cancer, which is a big thing now, there's a big, move on of awareness for men and prostate cancer, that a man who has prostate cancer, that cancer will be on the same frequency as another man that has it also?
Yes, that's right. That's right. But the prostate cancer is not applicable for the individual. So we do have a biofeedback system which do tailor frequencies specific to the person, because many different illnesses are caused through viral viral infestations, and you need to know what they are. And so with his biofeedback, he can actually determine what the ideal frequencies are to apply. I've got Spooky2 running now. There's 78 different programs for targeting the prostate.
Wow, okay, 78. So the biofeedback, is that part of Spooky2?
Yes, it is. It monitors your pulse and detects changes in your pulse. And it's when your body's reacting to frequencies, either doing a frequency sweep or going through programs and determining the ideal frequencies within a program to run.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, John. Talk us through the process. Say myself and Steve are interested in this technology, and we'll probably end up getting a Spooky2 and test it, because we are the kind of people to say, prove it. So, and we're very open-minded. The Pain Genie was another device that Richard Cumbers actually came up and did prove it to us. And the Pain Genie does a great job. But what you're doing is where I think the Pain Genie is treating the symptom more so than the cause, although it does go back in time if you use Herring's Law. Your system will actually get to the cause, which is even better. But obviously what we'd like to do is get a Spooky2, and what we'd like to do is test it and then let our listeners know how we are getting on with it and trialling it. Now, I did say to you that we got an email from one of our listeners in Australia who bought a Spooky2, and he said, yeah, he was obviously, people are skeptical, obviously, when they hear this. Yes. Well, he bought it, and he tested it on himself and his girlfriend, and he said, yeah, definitely it works. Now, so if we go and buy, what do we need to buy? What parts do we need to buy? And are there any online tutorials or how do we go about this? Because obviously people who are listening, we've already had emails from people wanting to get a Spooky2 or inquiring about buying a Spooky2 before you even come on the show, John. The last couple of weeks, they knew you were coming on and you were asking about it. So this is a kind of a good time to talk about, if people want to buy a Spooky2, what do they buy, what parts do they need, and how did they start off with it?
Okay. Well, I'm not a salesperson, so I can't tell you which kits to buy, but I think we've got three different types of kits. We've got the basic kit, the essential kit, and advanced kit. But I don't know exactly what's in each kit, but I can tell you precisely how to actually, what things you would need if you wish to perform a biofeedback scan. I think all of our kits contain the Spooky Pulse, which is a little unit that plugs in directly into your USB port of your computer. And they all come with a generator. And so really all our kits will allow you to run a biofeedback scan. So the Spooky Pulse plugs into the USB port, your generator plugs into your USB port, you fire the software up. There's 4 different ways that you can perform a biofeedback scan, and at the end of a scan, you'll know better which programs to run, at which frequencies to run. The scan takes about half an hour, or you can do a very long one if you want to scan over a greater frequency range. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay, so I'm just, playing devil's advocate a little bit, but in a way I don't know as well. I don't have one, so I'm just asking the questions what our listeners might be asking us. Right, okay, so myself and Steve, we're going to buy a Spooky2. I love the idea of the biofeedback, because if you can scan your own body and find out what's wrong with your own body, then you can say, well, okay, I've just done a scan and I found out that I don't know what information the scan would show up. Give us a typical example of a problem somebody might have on a scan they might find.
Well, it could be anything, but let's say someone's feeling... But actually, a really good example is if you're feeling down with influenza, which of course can be many, many different viruses. And so you do a biofeedback scan in the range that most of the programs are for the virus sets. Gosh, I'm tired.
So I know it's late at night in China over there. It's silly o'clock over there. So our listeners have to take that into account.
But there's literally hundreds and hundreds of different viruses that could be the cause of your runny nose, of your congestion. And so at the end of at the end of a biofeedback scan, you'll have maybe 20 or 30 different frequencies to run. You can do a reverse frequency lookup, which you can use to see where most likely your problem areas are, the viruses that have actually been targeted. And then you run those frequencies via remote or by contact mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about something a bit more serious, like, say, arthritis? Is that something that it could check for in your body for arthritis and then have frequencies to say, okay, this is what we found and this is where the problem is and you need to run X, Y, and Z to actually address that?
Yes, it is. A lot of arthritis, the cause of arthritis can easily be viral. And so, yes, it's a very good way of finding out the correct frequencies to run. The biofeedback can also tell you which frequencies are applicable for entrainment as well. If your body is out of sync, you can run quite often a biofeedback with the lower frequencies to find the correct ones to run.
Right, okay, and so say we get the Spooky2, right, and I want to do a scan for, say, arthritis, for example. I don't have a touch wood, but just in case. So I do a biofeedback and I say, right, I'm going to scan for arthritis. What's the next stage? What do I do? I mean, you say you run the frequencies. Is there any process that I will have to run it like once a week, once a day, or what's the process?
With our remote, with our Spooky remote, you can run it 24/7 without having to be tethered to a machine. So generally, the procedure after that is to run one or more generators. You need to run the frequencies that were found in the biofeedback, but you've also got to run in the background, or you recommend to run in the background, some detoxing programs so that your body can heal itself faster. And so you run frequencies for killing your, the viral load or reducing the viral load, and the second generator to remove the toxins from your body.
Okay, because it sounds highly technical. Even like myself and Steve are quite technical, but it does sound quite technical. Do you have online tutorials, or are there agents in particular countries where you can go and get training with this, or how does it work? Well,
Spooky2 is supported by many good people. We've got videos, we've got sites, we've got spooky2videos.com, we've got spooky2support.com. We've got a massive, massive forum filled with very good people. And so if you've got any questions, you can join our forum, you can ask questions there, or you can give advice as you learn more and more about the Spooky2 system. The strength of Spooky2 isn't one man. It isn't just me. It isn't just the core team of Spooky2. It's everybody. And so everyone's been contributing, making Spooky better. It's when people realise that, well, they make the decision, that healthcare and the degree at which you're looked after shouldn't be measured by the depth of your pockets. If you're well lined, you get better treatment than if you're living on the streets, and it's just plain wrong. And so when you join our forum, people don't charge for anything. They're very good people. They give advice. They want to help other people. And this is really why Spooky is growing so rapidly, and why I'm so proud to be associated with Spooky.
Well, this is the whole thing. What myself and Steve like doing is getting technology that's out there, and people who are trying to help people who can help themselves by buying the technology and doing it, and trying to, well, as best you can, avoid the 19th century medicine. and the drugs that the farmer give out. And, we've done numerous shows on that. And this is why we have to compliment people like yourself, John, who come out and give do technology like this and have the integrity to keep the price low. You could have easily ramped up the price on it. Now, we haven't tested it. And I'm not doing the sales pitch for Spooky2 because we haven't tested it. But I do think we are going to get one between the two of us. And we're going to test it and let our listeners know what it's like, if it does the job. And if we can, obviously, if people decide to get it and we work out how to do it and we get competent with it, I mean, more than likely we'll probably do a video tutorial and put it up there for people so they'll know how to use it. Right. On the basic level and contact us. This is what we did the same thing with the Pain Genie. We actually did the training. Richard gave us training with the Pain Genie, and we talked about the Pain Genie. We showed people how to use it. We've treated people with the Pain Genie, and we'd like to do the same thing with the Spooky2. I think we would have an interest, Steve. Do you think it'd be a good idea getting one?
I think it would be. I mean, the fact that, I've looked at a lot of the research, as have you, and we've looked at testimonials as well. I've actually tried to find information online saying where it's bogus and, it doesn't work. And I can't seem to find, I know there are a lot of trolls out there, but I can't seem to find anything that says it doesn't work. Everything seems to be positive.
That's a good complaint, John.
Yeah.
It is good. We're always trying to improve Spooky and make him better and better. And right now, Spooky's just amazing. And he is cheap, he's affordable. When we come up with a new idea and we make something new and add it to the Spooky, like we've just recently improved our contact mode accessory range. We've just increased that with silver-lined fabric, gloves and socks and sleeves. We always sit down and think, how can we make it cheaper? Can we do this way, this way? We need to think, well, hey, we can increase our profit margins by doing this or doing that. We're our own worst enemies. We try and keep everything as affordable as possible.
Well, you're in the right country for it. That's the great thing. If you're getting if it's manufactured over there, then it's obviously going to be a lot cheaper in China. For people, I would say to our listeners who are listening in, if you're not familiar with Royal Raymond Rife, I know I said it earlier, but you really need to understand Royal Raymond Rife and how frequencies work and resonance works. Because when you understand that, you'll understand how the Spooky machine works and the frequencies that it's working on. What is your success rate at the moment, John? What's the reports coming back with? What are people saying? And what kind of symptoms have they told you that they have? Can you say cured? Well, you're in China, so we'll say cured because, obviously medical doctors are the only people that can cure people, of course. So, but as you're in China, we'll say cured.
What's our success rate? I don't know. We have a very, we don't think of our users as patients. We think of them as, future friends. And so we hear about, the thousands of positive feedbacks that we get back. We've got a lot of our testimonials posted. I think it's spooky2testimonials.com or something like this. spooky2reviews.com.
Oh, okay. We'll have to put all them sites out there. So how does it work with the frequencies? Does somebody contact you and go, John, I've got a dodgy knee and this is the problem. Can you do a frequency for that? How does it work?
Well, that's precisely how it does work. People would, we encourage people to get their own kits because they know when they're having a response to something and they can change something immediately, and we keep them affordable. But that's right. When you're treating someone by remote, they'll say, "Oh, I've got a dodgy knee. Can you do something about it?" In your example, so you look for programs for arthritis, for joint inflammation, or for repair, tendon repair, ligament repair. And you apply the frequency sets that come up after searching for them. And then they'll report back the next day saying, I'm feeling a bit better. My joint doesn't hurt when I go for walks, so I can walk further without pain. And you just tailor make the program and change it accordingly to the feedback.
Now, is this acting like a painkiller, or is it actually healing the person?
Oh, yes, it's definitely healing. It's not it's not like you stop using it, like you stop taking a drug and then the pain returns.
Yeah. Okay, so it's actually doing the healing. Okay. Now we are familiar with Herring's Law. And Herring's Law, and he was a homeopath in the 1800s, and he said that we heal from the head down, the organs outwards and back in time. So the fact that we need to heal back in time, just for the listeners listening, if you imagine an iceberg and you cut the top of an iceberg and then it pops up and then you cut it off again, another bit pops up and you keep chopping away at the iceberg until it's gone. That's kind of Herring's Law, and that's how the whole the healing, the body heals according to Herring's Law. Would Spooky2 be the same thing, that you have to keep treating the person until the pain's actually gone?
Yes, it's layers upon layers. As you work on one part of the problem, then another one shows its head, which may be masked by the first. And so quite often we do find, especially in the chronic ones, where something's been ongoing for several years, we find that we certainly have to, there's many strata which you've got to address. And so you can start with the most important possibly. The first thing that we recommend is to run detox programs, because if someone's got heavy metals in their body, they don't seem to respond so well to the programs. And so we've created presets which are designed to remove toxins from your body. Run those and then run the programs to start attacking the most serious problems first. Okay.
And well, I was just going to say to the users, there is a difference between acute pain and chronic pain. Acute pain, for people who don't know, is when you just hit your hand off a door. That's instant pain, and you can heal it probably with one treatment. But with a chronic pain, it's, as John said, over the years, and it'll need multiple treatments to get rid of it. Now, John, on the you said about the healing and the biofeedback. Do the people need to be in the room to do the biofeedback, or can you do a scan on their DNA with the fingernail and do a biofeedback on the fingernail?
The person does have to be near Spooky2, but I'm going to show an example of how our users are helping us to become better. We used to have only relying on the ear clip or the finger clip for pulse detection, and then one of our users said, "Well, I'm doing it using our Spooky remote." They've still got to use the clip, but they're using the Spooky remote to actually apply the frequencies rather than having to hold on to the handhelds, which we had been using up to then. And so we started experimenting with that, and it's true that using Spooky remote to apply the frequencies whilst you've got your pulse monitoring clip on was a very good way of detecting as well. But you do have to be near your computer to do the biofeedback sessions.
Right, okay. Yes. So you can send it to healing, but if you're doing the biofeedback, because to me it makes sense that it's like running a diagnostics on your computer, and you check your system and you want to make sure, you want to see what's wrong with it first before you implement any treatments. And your body is the same thing. So doing the biofeedback, you'll do a scan of your body, you'll see where the problem areas are, and then you use the frequencies that you need to use to actually address them issues. Now, to me, it sounds fantastic, and I'm sure the same with Steve as well. We have a number of questions coming in now from our listeners, and it does sound fantastic. And we are guys that always say, the proof is in the pudding. So the only way we can actually prove Spooky2 is, as we say, we probably end up getting one and doing it and letting our listeners know. And maybe, in a few months' time, we get you back on, John, and talk about it. But so that's what I think maybe the plan of attack is. But I'm going to go over. We have questions for you here, John, from our listeners, and we have a good few questions there. I'm going to pass you off to Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, a lot of interest, John. Of a fair few questions, all kind of from different areas. we're just going to jump straight in, and the first question is from one of the listeners on People's Internet Radio chat. He says, "Hi guys, can you ask John if he knows patients who have had success treating Lyme disease? He says Lyme is very hard to treat as the Borrelia bacteria has forms which hide from the immune system very successfully."
Yes, we do. We've had very good results from people with Lyme. We've got reports of people being cured from Lyme. The place, Spooky2 testimonials.com, reviews.com, sorry. It's got reviews of people that suffer from Lyme and have had very, very positive results from Spooky2.
Okay, because I did notice when I was doing some of the research as well, there was a lot of people looking for information on Lyme disease in relation to the Spooky2, and a lot of people were saying that they did have very good success with the device. Again, as Alan said earlier, with treating, say, something like Lyme, would that work from a distance with a nail clipping, or would you need to be hooked up to the machine?
You can do it from a distance with success. You don't need to be hooked up to the machine.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just jump in? Just while it's in my mind, what about the likes of MS, John? Something as serious as MS, would you be able to treat that?
Yes, we've got programs for multiple sclerosis in our database. I just find having a look now. The multiple sclerosis, it's a bit of a difficult one because whether it's actually a hereditary condition or whether it's from some external aggravant for your, something external that caused it. But there's things you can do. There's many repair programs that you can use to help with that condition. But I don't know offhand any friend or person that has successfully treated multiple sclerosis. I haven't got a firm answer for that.
Okay, just while I think of it as well, we talked about if somebody has a dodgy knee or whatever and they call you and say, "John, I've got a dodgy knee, can you do a frequency for that?" Does that person have to be over with you so you can analyse? I mean, do you go into some kind of you'll take two or 3 months or whatever to work with that person to confirm that the frequencies you're using is correct, or do you have a faster process? Do you know quicker in some way that what frequencies to use, or how does it work?
And our databases been our database contains many programs which are tailor-made for conditions, and so if someone's got a joint problem, we've got many programs that are specific for joint repair, and so we suggest that the person runs those types of programs. Because the Spooky Remote, you don't have to be tethered to a machine. Many of these programs that can run a long time, we can chain them one to the other and create presets that allow long programs to be run in the background so the person can be, continuing their daily tasks. My brain is very tired. So we don't generally treat people from, my personal role is for development, not for treatment now. And so we don't get people phoning us up and saying, "Can you treat me for this condition?" But we certainly give them the equipment that they can use to take control over their own illnesses. And, I can use the word cure their conditions.
Okay, brilliant. Steve?
Yeah, we had a question earlier on from Chris on our own chat room, and Chris, he has a dodgy hip, and he's wondering, would the Spooky2 be able to, sort out his hip in any way, shape, or form? And just a little bit of a background, it's wear and tear of the joint. John. So I mean, it's not like it's not tendons or ligaments or anything like that. It's actual wear and tear, probably bone on bone. Can the Spooky2 do anything as in regeneration of the damaged bone, or is it really kind of for tendons, ligaments, and maybe for pain?
Oh no, it does. Spooky2 does have programs for regeneration of bone and joints, and the synovial fluid lubrication. There are many programs that are tailor-made for that, for rebuilding.
Yeah, that's good to know. So yeah, I think Chris might be happy with that one. And just from a kind of a personal point of view, what about hair regrowth? I have to ask. I'm sorry, I have to ask.
Yes, no, we have got programs for hair restoration, and the biofeedback is also good for that. The alopecia is the loss of hair. We've got programs for that, and so we do have that. We've got hair loss as well as the molecular weight programs for any sort of oils that you may be wanting to use for your hair.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Where we go next? The frequency range, and what was that from looking at the devices? The frequency range is 0 to 5 megahertz. I'm guessing every ailment is below 5 megahertz, or are there any ailments that will be above 5 megahertz?
A British research group has found that around just over 12 megahertz is the fundamental frequency for cancer. Our generator can go up to 25 megahertz. And so it's got no problems in hitting the fundamental for cancer.
And do you need add-ons in order for it to go up to 25? Because just off one of the websites, it actually just says that it goes up to 5 megahertz.
We use a technology called wave cycle multiplier, and in spooky tradition, it's as cheap as possible. It's free. It's just in the software. And the software, of course, is a free download. And so we can go up to 25 megahertz by having several frequencies within each waveform.
Okay, that's great. I mean, the fact that it's under 300 as well, because anything over 300, we've been told by Barry Trower, who's a physicist, and a number of other experts, is microwave and dangerous. So the fact that it's so low, it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you don't want to go into the dangerous frequency ranges, no.
Yeah, exactly. Steve?
Okay, now, just out of curiosity, because obviously you were the man to ask, let's say for argument's sake, we have, and I've heard you can do this, where you can have one of the add-on devices, and let's say there could be a nail clipping there for the DNA in relation to Alan, because Alan has condition A, and I have condition B. So we have the Spooky2 running. Can you have more than one program running at a time? And is there a maximum of programs that you can have running at any one time?
Well, can I add to that? Can you treat two people at the same time? You put your nail, my nail in the device for the same symptom.
Yes, you can. You can put many people's nails. We can treat a whole village of people. If the nails can fit into the Spooky remote, you can just treat them all simultaneously. And there's no risk in doing so.
And does it have to be a fingernail?
No. We found that fingernails are a good source of DNA because it's stable. It doesn't degrade over time very quickly. But you can use other samples of DNA as well. You can use blood, you can use saliva. You can use any good source of DNA. But we found that fingernails does tend to last a long time, and it's easy to handle because it can be just taped simply between, you can sandwich it in some masking tape and then slide it in.
And just put just put a person's name on it, and very good. Yeah. Okay, Steve.
Now, I think I did read this one somewhere on one of the testimonial sites that I actually looked at, Morgellons. It does cure Morgellons disease. Is that correct, John?
Again, the word cure. But we've had people that say that they've been cured of Morgellons, yes.
Well, okay. Well, maybe we won't say cure, but we'll say it has obviously helped them in some way, very beneficially. Where next? If you want to buy the device, it seems that you must purchase it from what I can see from China. I haven't found any European stores stocking the device. Is there any reason for that?
Yes, we want to keep the price as low as possible, so we don't want to have a middleman to add their profit margin. So it's a very simple reason. We just wanted to do it straight to the user.
And what about selling the device into Europe? Have you had any issues in exporting into Europe? Because I know in European countries, a lot of devices have to have a CE stamp, and if it doesn't have a CE stamp, then they either won't let it in, they'll stop it at customs, or the end user would have to contact, say, you guys in China to get a CE approval form or something.
Yes, no, all our products are CE approved.
They are. Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay. Where are we? Chris is wondering, can you ask John how many times the Spooky2 has to be used to be effective on any condition?
If you're using Spooky2 remote mode, you've got to extend the program application time. It's not as fast as in contact mode or in plasma mode. And so if it's by remote, you just leave it running for maybe 10 times or even 20 times longer than you would if it was in contact mode. But it's not a major issue. If it's a program that would normally take an hour on contact mode, you run it for 20 hours, and you can still go to work and do your daily tasks.
Yeah, so I suppose while you're working away or while you're sleeping, it's actually healing.
Yes, that's right.
And plus the fact that if you have a chronic complaint, you don't know how long it's going to take to, because everybody's pain is different, and it could take different times. Some people could be a couple of weeks, other people could be a couple of months, depending on what your ailment is.
Yes, that's right. And so I can't give a straight answer to several of these questions because it's quite a complex question to answer. But we find that with treatments, it does often take a while to resolve, but you see the gradual improvement day by day. Excellent.
Steve?
Yeah, we have a question from one of the listeners on People's Internet Radio, and he's just wondering, is there a money-back guarantee on the device? Obviously, if you buy it to cure something and it doesn't cure it, do you get your money back?
No, we don't have a money-back guarantee, no.
Okay, that's fine. Where are we now? Paddy wants to know, if I sent a nail clip to you and say I have arthritis, will Spooky2 be able to work on me here at home? Yeah, we've actually covered that, Paddy. Yes, so yeah, the answer is yes, but it will probably take longer than if you were tethered to the machine, as John said. Is there any visual proof that it works? Sorry, I have to be critical. So many scams out there, from a listener on PIR.
There certainly are lots of scams out there. We're in talks with a man that's got a extremely powerful microscope. They can look and he can actually view. Well, I can't say too much online, but we're working with researchers to do just that at the moment.
Okay, well, we always say proof is in the pudding, and I suppose what we'll do is, myself and Steve tend to be guinea pigs a lot of the time for a lot of things, don't we, Steve? So,
well, all in the name of science.
All in the name of science. So we will put a handle in the air and probably go and contact you, John, after the show, or in the next couple of days, and we'll arrange to get a Spooky2, and obviously we will let our listeners know how we're getting on. As I say, we'll probably do a video on how it works, because I'm a big believer in keeping things simple. Maybe it's just because of the IT side, kids keep it simple, stupid. And so doing it very basic, because it does sound quite complicated. For somebody who's kind of not technical or not that way inclined, it does sound quite involved. So if we do a tutorial video on it, we will try and keep it very simple for people to understand the actual product. And if it does what it says on the tin, by God, I'm sure there's a queue of people going to be queuing up for getting their ailments treated. But that's a good thing. Now, before while I was talking to you before we went live, we said that the universe has a habit of, telling us when to get somebody on to talk about something. Now, we heard about the Spooky2 software about 2 years ago. It was when Richard Cumbers from Pain Genie told us about it. Now, Richard and Karen MacDonald, who've been on the show, have this really, really advanced tech software which costs a fortune to buy. I mean, you're talking about thousands of euros to buy. So when we heard about the Spooky2 software being free, we thought, oh, okay, let's get that down. Now, I actually have the Spooky2 software installed on my PC, but we don't have a device. So I am kind of looking forward to it. I'm sure Steve is as well, that if we do get one, to try it out, and then we'll give an honest review and see how we get on with it. I do like the idea that the biofeedback, that you can scan your own body and then see what's going on, and that's personal to you. I think that is definitely, because my understanding of Spooky2 at the start, when I started looking into it, was that, you just run frequencies and you heal yourself with these frequencies. I wasn't aware that you had a biofeedback system where you could scan your own body and actually then treat yourself based on what you find. And I think that's so important to be able to do that, rather than just have kind of, I won't say generic frequencies, but you know what I mean, when it's specific to you and you're treating symptoms that you're finding. I think that's very important, John. So well done on that.
Yes, we found that a lot of the frequencies, especially the earlier sets, the numbers that were in our database were integers, and never, most other people's databases were plain integers. But nature doesn't work that way, and so with biofeedback, you can find the precise frequency to apply, and that makes programs much more effective.
Right, and it's obviously treating yourself now. Will you get people who have bought this and they've done a biofeedback, and they've said, well, I've done a biofeedback, I've scanned my body, and the thing that I have or I suffer from did not come up in the list, so I can't treat it. Is that something you've come across?
There is, but people seem, we have, but they do then apply those frequencies and they do get better. So you've got to sort of wonder whether the original diagnosis was correct. We had one person that reported that they got hits around the cancer frequency range of 1.604 megahertz. And they went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you've actually got early stage cancer. And so that was a bit of an unfortunate success. But we do have people that have said that their conditions don't show up, but their conditions do resolve when they apply those frequencies.
Right, okay. Well, that's quite interesting. And do you have any people that have used the Spooky2, have been diagnosed with something, have used the Spooky2, and then went back to the doctors have done a scan and said, everything's okay?
There's one interesting case that comes to mind now. This person went to the doctor and they had to have some dental work done. They had a polyp in their mouth, and they weren't sure if it was cancerous or not, and so they were booked in for surgery. And then they've got a Spooky2 kit, and they do what we ask people to do, and that is take control of their own health. They apply the frequencies for that they saw most suited, which were for polyps and other dental, I think it was dental general programs. And then they went in the week before the date of the surgery, and the polyp was gone. And that particular case was quite interesting because their dentist took photos of inside their mouth both before and afterwards. So I guess if someone wants positive proof that it works, if you go to our testimonials website, it's spooky2review.com. They'll see this person's reports on that. Okay,
and what about the likes of dental? What success have you had with anybody with dental issues and teeth and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we've had great reports, and especially with the base pair database, because there's many programs in that database which directly target the pathogens that live in your mouth. You've got quite a jungle of bacteria that live in your mouth, and they cause all the problems. So you run the frequency sets that target those, and the problems resolve.
Wow, Okay, I mean, it sounds fantastic. Steve, do you have any other questions there you want to speak to John about?
Nothing at the moment, no.
Okay,
Still gathering a few more.
There'll be more questions coming in, I'm sure. The whole idea of the technology and how it works remotely is probably phasing a lot of people when they hear this interview, either tonight or when we have it as a podcast. And again, we talk about the unified source field, and we've had people on the show saying that they could do the same thing, like the healing. Is there anything, you said you have a database of 40,000, that's an awful lot of ailments that you have on there. Is there anything that you don't have on there that you're looking to include? Anything that you can't do?
No, it's not 40,000 conditions, it's 40,000 programs.
Okay.
So, and it's growing each month. Each month we download the latest data. Every single genome that's been published in the research papers is included in our database. So, of course, this is growing all the time. And so we're very active in making sure that we're up to date.
Fantastic. And what's the situation with the mainstream media and the farmer? Have they come out and poo-pooed it and said that it's all hocus pocus, or have you been attacked in any way?
We've not on a big scale. We've been trolled, and we've had some people just wanting to cause try and sort of discredit us. But you can't hide a blue whale in a goldfish bowl. It's just one of these things which is real. You mentioned before about there's so many people that are, it could be a scam, the Spooky2. Well, the price is right. If it was a scam, I guess we'd be making more profit, on what we're selling. And we've got all the feedback of the people who both like the product and they also like the Spooky2, the way that we do things, which is inclusive. We're growing. Spooky2 isn't just us; it's everybody that's using Spooky2. We want a Spooky2 in every home, and to do that, we've got to sort of show people that just how good it is. And we've got many people doing this for us. When someone gets cured from some condition, they've got friends that they'll be talking to, and so it's just branching out. Very, just good.
Well, that's the idea. Do you have anybody in Ireland at the moment that is using the Spooky2?
Ireland is a little hotbed of Spooky2 activity. We had a conference in Ireland very recently, and we had a fantastic turnout. I've been to Ireland a few times. We've got a core team member, David Burke, there. And, Ireland's sort of growing on me. It's a great place. I'm sorry to hear about the weather. We've had quite good weather here in China. It's been cold, but it's been wonderful weather.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to Ireland, even after 50 years. I'd like to get in touch, because the reason why I asked you the question about Ireland is because if you do have people over here, like your community is obviously growing, and if you have people over here who actually know about the Spooky2 and know how to use it, I'd like to get in touch with that person or people to speed up my learning curve on the Spooky2 when we get one, because it'll just be quicker to do it that way.
Yes, I'll give you the details of this person after the program. We've got this gentleman who lives in Dublin, and we'll give you his contact details.
Right. So is he an agent or a user, or just a user, or who is he?
No, he's a core team member. We don't have agents.
Okay.
But if people do want to learn more about Spooky2, they can join our Facebook group and join the conversations that take place there.
Yeah, because I just think like video tutorials, or people actually showing you how to do it, is so much better. especially in a classroom environment, or as I say on the video, when you break it down and show the basics, which is something that we would do if we feel. If we get one and we and it does what it says on the tin, then we'll be more than happy to do that. Because we've done the same with the Pain Genie. So again, when we find technology, and myself and Steve tend to be the guinea pigs, to trial and test technology, because we're into the techie stuff anyway. But that's good that you haven't been attacked. Now, obviously, you have to be careful when you say cure, because I don't know about China, but over here, the pharmaceutical companies, or what should I say, the medical doctors are the only people that can say cure. If you say something cures it and you don't have a medical license, then you're not allowed to say it.
It's crazy, isn't it? Can't say the truth.
That's the trouble.
Well, speaking of cures, just kind of a little. I know it's very very late of an evening for you over there, John, but Chris over here has a kind of a funny sense of humour. And talking about cures, he wants to know: can the Spooky2 cure a hangover?
Actually, it's a very interesting question, because I can't think of it offhand, but they did find that there was something that does cure hangovers. It was a chemical, but I can't remember at the top of my head what the chemical was. But if you can find out what the chemical was, you can apply the molecular weight of that chemical. There was
that's very interesting.
Well, that's interesting. And quite seriously, we just had Patrick's Day on Friday, St. Patrick's Day, and there's a lot of people with severe hangovers, probably still ongoing at the moment. So it's not a bad question, to be honest with you. you know what? When it comes to celebrations over in Ireland, that's what people are like. Well, that's brilliant regarding the diseases. The reason why I ask about the MS is because we have a guest on next week, Dr. Terry Wallace, and she's a medical doctor, and she had MS. And she's back to 95% being fit. But what she did was she changed her diet, which I think is a big help for everybody anyway. She gave her body what it wanted. But I suppose if you're using something like the Spooky2 to maybe advance or enhance the treatment, then it would all help.
There's a line of thought with multiple sclerosis where it could be born through allergies. And you can use the biofeedback to determine which foods are best suited to yourself. When this researcher he's written a book, the idea is you consume some food, and then you monitor your blood. You monitor your pulse afterwards, and if your pulse rises, then your body's reacting to the food in a bad way. And you can use our Spooky Pulse for this. When you do a biofeedback, it's got a graph that shows the pulse. You can see the pulse rising or falling. And so you can use that to determine which foods you are best suited for yourself.
Well, I think that would be very interesting, especially people who suffer from IBS, who have a food intolerance, and certain foods upset their stomach, because they always say the stomach is the second brain in the body. So people with a food intolerance, it sounds to me like another form of kinesiology.
Yes, it is. Well, your body doesn't lie, and so you're just listening to your body.
That would be fantastic for doing food tolerances and knowing what's good for you. Now, you have a number of products on the Spooky2. It's not just the actual small device. I think you have a few others. You have the Big Brother version. Or something like that. Can you tell us about
Spooky Central?
Spooky Central, is it? Did you had a look at it?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's on spooky2-mall.com. That's our sales site. Spooky Central combines 4 different ways of applying frequencies. The main one being plasma, and it's complemented by a special contact mode, ultrasonic, and coil as well. And so if you've got a very serious condition, Spooky Central is possibly your best chance of resolving the problem. Okay,
and have you had any adverse effects? Have people said to you, look, I've used it and I've had this effect from it, either directly or indirectly?
I haven't heard any feedbacks from anyone that has had an adverse effect from the unit. we've had some people not know how to use it, so we've given advice, and then they've come back in a positive manner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, again, I think it's probably down to the tutorials and the education how to use it. I have had a look at the software. Steve had the software. He was looking at an image of the software, and I've gone into the software, and it. I have to say, I didn't find it that very user friendly. Maybe it's because, I'm not familiar with the software, and I know people say RTFM. I'm sure you know what that means. But I always find my approach to software is that if you can't kind of work out the basics of a program without looking at the manual, then it could be quite difficult to use. And that's just my kind of IT background, how I approach things. Would you say that, or would you say it's definitely a case of getting the manual out and understanding it?
We have presets that have made the task much easier to run Spooky2. You've got to keep in mind that Spooky2 is the only system that can run 126 generators at the same time. If it was a single generator program, then it will be a single page software where you just press a go and then a stop. But we've got 126 different generators. And so each one's got to be controlled individually. Each one's got to run in the background. So there's a lot happening in the background. Also, the ability of Spooky2 is quite profound. It's a very flexible software, and so with flexibility comes many different options. Many of the smarts is in the background, but the user can select many different ways of running programs. And it is complex, but it's getting easier. But as I said, with so many generators, it's a very powerful piece of software.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I'd say it is. Now, the other thing about software companies and products like, I'm not saying the Spooky2, but if you're in the kind of the corporate world, there's normally some kind of perpetual licensing going on regarding the software and updates. So you buy the initial package, and then once a year there's a kind of a renewal fee for updates and stuff like that. How does that work regarding the Spooky2?
Well, we do things different here. Our focus isn't on money, it's on the people. So if we change and improve our software, we always give it for free. We generally, for quite a while, we're doing monthly updates of our software, and with each update you get new database and new features. And sometimes it's once every 2 months. But the software is free forever. It will never cost anything to use. There's no licensing restrictions in that way. So you can, anyone listening to your program now can go to our spooky2.com website, download the software and run it. Even without hardware, they can run the software in test mode, where it's emulating many generators connected to your system, so they can see whether it's suitable for their needs and has the programs that they require to use. And it's free to download, free to use, free to share. There's no restrictions whatsoever.
That's it, and I can confirm that because I downloaded it on my machine. Are you concerned about people cloning your device or robbing your idea, again from a profit point of view? Because you always get people who something will come out and go, oh, we're going to make that cheaper, or we're going to make it a clone version of it.
Yeah, but it's mostly, if they do knockoffs, it's mostly done in China. But if the Spooky2 is getting made in China, so I mean,
well, let's say devil's advocate, say it's not China, say it's Japan or Thailand or something like that. Say some company decides to do a knockoff version of the Spooky2. Have you had any concerns of that, or is there anybody that's trying to do that?
We're not concerned at all, really. We're not a business, and so we haven't got a market share to protect. We're wanting to help our users. So if someone else comes up with some equipment that's cheaper and works better, well, that's fantastic, isn't it?
No, I totally agree. I mean, fair play, that's a great approach to have it. But I take it you've copyrighted your designs and trademarked and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we have invested, a lot of effort and money into in some of our equipment, but we haven't copyrighted anything. No.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I'm going to have to get my Arduino out now and start developing a Spooky2. I'll take another 100 years if I was to do that. Steve, do you have any questions there?
No, I think we've answered a lot of the questions. We've got the information on the device. We know you're on Facebook. People can check out the Facebook. We have all the links here that you gave us, John, to the support reviews, to the videos, to the main site. We have the link to spooky2-mall.com where people can actually buy one right now. We've also got links there to Rife Technology. So we've got a mixed bag of links there where people can actually check out, do their own research and see that obviously the research combined with what you've told us this evening or this morning, then they can decide if Spooky2 is for them. And I mean, as we've said, as Alan said at the beginning of the show, it's at a price that's affordable for everyone.
Definitely. But the question I have regarding the Rife technology, we've come across people developing Rife technology devices, and a lot of people I won't say a lot, just the comments were, oh yeah, they're not even near Rife. You know, they claim certain things, but it doesn't do the job. So there are similar Rife technologies out there. What's your take on them? Because you said you went to South Africa and you seen somebody had a Rife machine there. What was that all about?
Oh no, I didn't go to South Africa. My friend was from South Africa. We did everything through the internet. Well, my take on it is this. You know, Royal Rife didn't actually want his name on any of his equipment. A machine to be a Rife machine, it needs to be a plasma machine. And to be a real Rife machine, it must not use a carrier. If it's got a carrier, it's a Philip Hoyland machine, who was the gentleman who eventually played a major part in Royal Rife's downfall. And so it's kind of ironic how people wish to use a Philip Hoyland machine when it's, he was the man that actually caused Royal Rife to fail in the end with his hopes to help people.
And of course they bought out the Rife machine and buried it, and because he was curing people with whooping cough and cancer in the 20s with that machine. It's just amazing how they got rid of it, because obviously it would affect their market share. There's a question there on the chat room, and from Paddy, and he says, have you heard of Kesh, the Iranian scientist?
Yes, I have. But I haven't got any strong views on his research. He's been doing research on plasma. Very smart man. But no, I haven't got any strong views or opinions on what he's doing.
Yeah, because he's had the MadGrab device, which has got to do with saving energy in households, and we've got a Q device here, believe it or not, in the studio, but we've tested it, but we want to do a bit more testing, and the person that we want to come over and do some testing, he's very busy at the moment. But one of our listeners actually gifted us a Q device, which we have here, and it's rough and ready, but I'm sure it does the job. But we just want to do a bit more testing on it before we actually put it live, because the idea of it is it nano coats the cables, and it's using plasma technology. And it's funny that your device is using plasma as well.
Yes, it is. Our Spooky Central is a plasma device. We've got two different tubes we're using with it.
Why plasma? What is it with plasma?
I think the magic of plasma is because the transducer that actually emits the frequencies is non-reactive, insofar as it doesn't have a sweet spot in frequencies, and so it's a very broad spectrum. I think that's, because I've worked with this for such a long time, I think it's really why plasma's so successful. Because, if you use a coil's got to be tuned. Most of the other means of transmitting frequencies, they have got an operating range, and then you use modulation or some other means to actually create sidebands to hit the target. But with plasma, it doesn't have to be within a certain frequency range. Its responses, electrical responses, even throughout a wide range of frequencies.
Well, with your knowledge that you've gained in your field of electronics and your team, have you considered looking at free energy devices at all?
a lot of our research and our projects are very close to the type of equipment that's used for developing free energy devices, and especially in the coil area, with the rodent coils and others. And we are looking into that.
Okay. It's just short and sharp there.
Yeah. Well, some of the things, we've got some people that are not really enjoying what we're doing because we've taken their market share. They're looking at it on a business perspective. They see us as a threat, and so they want to cause us harm. And so I can't say to you, well, we've got this thing coming up, in a month's time.
Yeah. Because
they'll do their darndest to make sure that it doesn't get released for some reason. It's not as clean as one would hope.
Yeah,
it was.
I know what you mean. Something that we've been obviously trying to get involved in. Myself and Steve have built solar generators and a few other bits and pieces. And as I say, we're getting into the Arduino, the microprocessors and stuff like that, purely for looking at ways to generate or create free energy devices, which we're happy to share out and give to people if we come across anything. And we've got a few ideas in the back of our mind what we want to do. Part of is understanding the technology and how it works. We just found that the Arduino, being a microprocessor and it's open source generic, is probably the best way to go for our level of knowledge and what we know. But obviously, with the level of knowledge that you have and your team have, I'm sure you can do a hell of a lot more on that side. But as you say, you have to be you have to be quiet. You can't say too much. But it's good that you're looking at that area as well, because there's a massive market in that as well, not just for the healing, but the free energy. Well, maybe that's something we can chat offline about. I don't know. So definitely looking at the free energy stuff. But as I say, we're going to have to get to Spooky2. But I'll tell you what, John, we know you're over in China. We know it's ridiculous hours over there at the moment, and you're probably barely staying awake because it's in the middle of the night. So we're not going to keep you. We're going to let you go. All right? And so you can go to your bed. And we do appreciate you staying up late to be live on the show. Maybe the next time we might do a pre-record because it'll be a lot easier for you. But we like the interaction with our listeners as well, and the questions coming in as well. So, and that's what really adds to it. But we'll let you go, John, and a big thank you for coming on. We will get in touch with yourself and the team regarding getting the Spooky2, so we can actually test it here. And if I can find out the details of that chap in Dublin who's over here, maybe we can contact him, have a Skype with him and have a talk with him and get a heads up on things. Because obviously if we can use it and we can start, treating friends and family and they all come back and go, wow, that worked, that has a big help, then obviously, we'll be happy to give it a plug and give it some promotion. If it does the job, and that's really what we've done with the Pain Genie. We've been happy with that, and we don't get any money for that. We don't not get any funding for that, and like that. We just believe in the product because we've tried it and it works. It's as simple as that. And if the Spooky2 does the same thing, we'll be happy to give it a plug and give it a promotion there. But a big thank you for coming on, John. Much appreciated. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your details again, just for our listeners who might have tuned in late, and find out about Spooky2 and where to find you. Steve.
Yeah, John, thanks very much for staying up until this ungodly hour. We do have all the links. We won't delay you any further than is absolutely necessary. We do have all the links, as I say, all the Spooky2. So we're going to whack them up on the chat rooms and people can check those out. And they'll obviously, people listening to the podcast will avail of those too. They'll hear them being mentioned. So do you want to throw in any closing statements or anything at all?
Well, I'd like to make one statement. Everyone knows someone who's sick and unwell, possibly family members or friends, and it's nice to be able to do something for them, and it's nice to have an alternative to them going to a doctor and getting the medications for pain control rather than curing any illness. what we say is for people to take control over their own health. We provide a device which people can afford. We are good people. We're surrounded by good people. We're certainly not a scam. I think that the more people that take control over their own health, the better. You know, when you go to a doctor, and the doctor, spends their quarter hour, half hour with you, and then you go home, the doctor's not going to be thinking about you at night time, worried about you. Really, the person who is best suited to looking after yourself is yourself. And we provide the tools for doing just that.
Totally. And to stay away, I mean, as much as you can, I call it the 19th century medicine, and that's really what it is, And we had a medical doctor on the show, Dr. Lorraine Day, and she was an ex-trauma surgeon, and she said to us, doctors are only good at writing prescriptions and taking body parts out. And she's a doctor, and that was her statement. And so there you go. That really adds in. Now, we're not saying there are drugs that do save people's lives, and there are procedures that you need to go to the hospital for, and that's understandable. But if there's any way that you can manage your own health or use a device to actually manage your own health, like diseases, viral, whatever, I think that's probably the way to go if we can do it ourselves. And I think the Spooky2 sounds like that. It sounds like a great device. But John, thanks a lot for coming on, and much appreciated. We'll be in touch. We'll send you a link for the podcast and all that. Just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, we're back. Paul Young, come back and stay. A very good morning to everyone tuned in China. And as promised, we will give out, just very quickly give out those links to the Spooky2. Everything is kind of spooky2.com. So it's spooky2.com is the main site, spooky2support.com for obviously support, spooky2videos.com for the videos, and spooky2reviews.com for the reviews. And the links are available on the website should you wish to buy one. I think the basic kit works out at $114, so not going to break the bank.
114. Well, then that's less than 3 doctor visits over here in Ireland.
Absolutely, yeah.
For the basic kit. Well, that's interesting. Again, thanks to John. Just called them from China. It's silly o'clock over there, so thanks for John for staying up. Right, now, because we had John on from China, we didn't do the bits and pieces as we normally do at the start of the show and Alan and Steve's week, because we wanted to get John on and let the poor man go to bed, do the interview. So we have a couple of things to go through. Now, so just kicking off, the Independent.ie has reported that credit unions turn away cash as bank rules force change. Now, this is quite interesting, folks. Credit unions are turning away cash at the moment. Some of them are telling members to reduce their saving balances below €25,000, with others putting caps in place for the amount of new savings they will accept. Credit union lenders said the savings and loans bodies are suffering from their own success, as members wanted to save with them rather than with the banks. But high levels of savings at a time of muted demand for loans are causing problems for the credit unions. Too many members want to save and not enough are taking out loans. We are a product of our own success. People want to put money into a credit union. They don't want anything to do with the banks. But we have to have 10% of member savings in our reserves, and we are charged negative interest rates by the banks when we deposit our surplus funds with them, Mr. Conville said. Now, I'll try and explain this as best I can. The credit unions make money from the loans they give out, all right? And by law, every €100 that somebody saves, the credit union has to have a €10 reserve. And that €10 reserve comes from the interest they get from giving out the loans. Now, what's happened is people are saving their money, and every €100 they put in, there has to be a €10 reserve. But the credit union are not getting that interest from the loans because nobody's taking out the loans and they're being penalised. So the way they're stopping people is to reduce the savings, the amount of money they can put in. So again, they're changing the rules to suit themselves. Because people are moving away from the banks and going to the credit unions. I hope that kind of explained things. But by law, they have to have a reserve. And people are saving and not taking loans out. Fair play to people not getting loans out. Stay away from the banks. You know what they're like. So that's really what's happening with the credit unions. So if you go to the credit union and you had a big bag of cash, they'd probably tell you that you're going to be restricted on what you can save in the credit union, which is a bit cheeky, but there you go. They always change the rules. Like Monopoly, they'll change it to suit themselves. It's just the way it works. Steve?
Yeah, well, that's actually happened to me recently. I went into my local credit union and they said to me, look, yeah, you have too much money in your account. There's way too much in there. 25 grand minimum.
What about your offshore account?
Well, that's not connected to the bank.
Oh,
that's not
we
connected.
won't tell the tax man about that.
Jesus,
Okay.
the less said about that, the better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What else we got for you? We have BBC.com. Comic relief money invested in arms and tobacco shares, it says. Millions of pounds donated to comic relief have been invested in funds with shares in tobacco, alcohol and arms firms, BBC Panorama has learned. The BBC has also seen evidence which suggests Save the Children censored criticism of energy firms to avoid upsetting corporate partners. Quite interesting. The charity uses a number of managed funds which invest that money on a charity's behalf, including in the stock market. Panorama has also learned that between 2007 and 2009, some of these investments amounting to millions of pounds, appeared to contradict several of its core aims. Despite its mission statement claiming it is committed to helping people affected by conflict, in 2009 the charity had £630,000 invested in shares in weapons firms BAE Systems. Wow, Jesus Christ. So, that's very interesting.
Now, we can't say what charities are what, but, you know, some charities you'll get, if you donate €3 a month, well, you know, Live Aid was mentioned as well in that article that I read. It's on BBC.com. And I do believe, something in the back of my mind, and I could be wrong, tells me that Enoch Crane actually did some research into this. And he did find that a lot of these charities, the money doesn't actually go to the cause. It goes into something else. And, the BBC.com article is from a Panorama research. It was a Panorama program that we're talking about it. And I am a believer, and this is just my own opinion, that charity begins at home. And I think we should help our own people first. And I know some people might say, oh, but you can't do that. But at the end of the day, you might donate your €3 a month, but you're not guaranteed they're going to get it. At least over here, if you donate money to the You're Not Alone charity, you can see where it's going. You literally can, you know...
we can testify to that.
We can testify to that, because I've been down there and I've seen it, the food that we bought being used to feed the homeless, and the sleeping blankets that we did to raise the funds for, and everything else that we've done. And that you can see, you can track and you can trace. But just spending €3 on something that you think is going to happen, you know, I'd rather see the money go to the people over here. We need it over here, and it's definitely being used. But
well, I think if you're going to donate money to causes, it's always best to donate as close to the cause as you can, because a lot of these things where they say, like, you donate €1 a month or €5 a month, whatever it may be, especially if these people are out in the street or they come knocking on your door asking you to, you know, subscribe to something, there's no guarantee that if all of your €5, whatever the figure may be, is going to get to the person who needs it most. Because a lot of these places, and my wife and my father-in-law, they used to do collections for the RNLI, I think I have that correctly, the lifeboats, because my father, he used to work, well, he was a seaman. There's
a joke in there somewhere.
There is, but let's not go there. He worked at sea, and he could see that, you know, the work that the RNLI actually did. And a lot of times when people were collecting for the RNLI, the money went directly to where it was supposed to go. But other people would be also out on the street collecting for different organisations. And before my wife or my father-in-law would actually put money in the bucket, they would generally ask the person, are you getting paid for this? And if the person said, oh yeah, then they wouldn't donate, because they said, well, okay, if I put a fiver in there, €4 probably going, €3 could be going to admin, you're probably getting €1, and €1 is probably going to the person who needs it most, so that they would never kind of donate that way. And especially when people come knocking on your door and ask you to fill out the direct debit mandate, for whatever it may be, Sight Savers or Save the Whales or Save the Trees, whatever.
No, it was vaccines in Africa.
Vaccine, yeah.
And I said to him, well, I'll give you 50p. And he said, no, yeah, we can't take money. You have to fill out the forms. And so I proceeded to educate him regarding the vaccines. And I said, no, not a chance. People in third world countries don't need vaccines. They need food. Yeah. They need, money to, survive. They don't need vaccines. They need food. So, all these, adverts saying, oh yeah, if you pay €3 and that's enough money to get vaccines for the country. No, they need food. They need to survive. Not vaccines they need food. Sorry, Steve. I was jumping in there.
No, that's it. I was pretty much done anyway.
An offshore account, Ireland's Eye is not offshore. You wouldn't have an offshore account in Ireland's Eye. That doesn't count. How's your week?
Yeah, fine. I've had a busy week in work. What can I say? The castor oil came in, and I'm very tardy. I haven't actually had a chance. My wife would probably say I did, but I didn't. I didn't have a chance to rub it into the places where it's needed most. Although I did rub a little bit into my wife's back, and it seemed to work wonders. The less said about that, the better. Use your own dirty minds.
The video will be out next week.
Rated R. She had a bit rubbed into her back, and it seemed to do wonders for a condition that she has, scar tissue on her back. She got some relief from it. I haven't had a chance to set up the tripod and rub it into the solar panel on my head just yet. But it did actually come in, and it wasn't smashed, so that was a plus. So that was good. The only other thing really on my list is dirt, DIRT, and nothing to do with that dirt tax that the bank charge people. This is actual dirt. A recent report. I think this is something we all knew anyway, growing up as kids. When you're out playing in the dirt, and you're just mucking about in the muck and dirt, it's more beneficial to you, and seemingly it creates a stronger immune system, is what research says. But like I say, we all knew this as kids, and a lot of these products that people have today, your child goes out and your child, touches off something, and you get the hand sanitizer out straight away. Well, these are doing more harm than good, because seemingly if there are bacteria or whatever on the skin, then your immune system will analyse it and get to work creating antibodies to protect against it if needs be. But if you quickly sanitize your skin, then all your immune system is getting really is all this sanitizer stuff, and seemingly it can mess up your immune system. So the next time you see a child who's dirty and covered in muck, they're a happy, healthy child. That's all I'd say.
Exactly. Totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree.
That's it. I'm sorry. Sorry. That's my week. That's my week in about, a minute? Anyway, Well, I was very busy in work, so, I do have an excuse. But your week is always better than my week, so tell us all about it.
Well, I didn't have too much excitement, but last week we at the end of the show we were talking about our gadget porn and the fact we're into gadget websites. And I know we got an email saying, but you never said what sites were they. Okay, we'll tell you what sites we're looking at the moment. One site is aliexpress.com. That's ALIexpress.com. They have phenomenal products on there, loads of technology on that site, really, really loads of stuff. Now, because I'm doing the Arduino stuff and learning the kind of how to program microprocessors, you've probably seen, if you look on Facebook or on our YouTube channel, you'll see that I've been kind of playing around with a couple of ideas. That's one of the sites. They have loads of stuff on it and very cheap. And the other site is a site called irishelectronics.ie. Again, they have loads of stuff on the site there.
All I can say about irishelectronics.ie is,
I tell you, loads of gadgets. And seriously, if you're into gadgets, definitely them two sites there are definitely brilliant. Apart from the obviously, eBay adverts and Amazon.co.uk. I mean, them two other sites are really technical. Loads of gadgets on there. And the other thing that's on the list was myself and Steve, as you know, have built solar generators, and we wanted to get a couple of terminals, positive and negative terminals that we wanted to put on and wire to the batteries in the solar generators. But I couldn't source them over here in Europe, so I ordered them from a company in America. So I ordered them, they came in, happy days. Then all of a sudden I got a paperwork in from FedEx. And on the paperwork, FedEx says, oh yeah, we have a customs charge here for these items, and also a thing called an advancement fee. So I thought, well, now it came to about, 32 euros, give or take. And I thought, I'm not really happy about that because, okay, the customs fee you have to pay, it's a luxury tax. And but the advancement fee, what does that mean? I've paid delivery, so why am I paying an advancement fee? So what I did was I sent an email to FedEx and I said to them, right, okay, look, I'll pay the fee, but I want to see the documentation from customs showing what I have to pay for the customs charge, and I also want to know what an advancement fee is. So anyway, a few days go past, two weeks goes past, and then I get a letter from FedEx, a threatening letter saying if I don't pay in 10 days, there'll be trouble. So I obviously took up the challenge and wrote a letter back to FedEx, but I took the Aidan Killian approach rather than the official approach where normal people would probably go down the official line. I thought, well, we're all friends in this universe, and we're all working and we're all doing our bit, and nobody wants to have a fight or conflict. So, if they send me the paperwork, and I'll have a look at the paperwork and tell me what the advancement fee is, then I'll pay the fee, and then we'll be all happy and we all live happily ever after. So towards that effect, I think you can back me up on that one. You've seen the letter.
Yes, I did. It kind of started off very, very kind of serious, and then it just kind of went, listen, lads, come here. let's be honest about it.
Let's all have a drink and talk about it. Exactly. Yeah. So all of a sudden, I get a phone call on the OIM hotline, and I said, and I happened to say, I'll answer it, because sometimes I'm busy and I leave the answer machine on, and I pick it up and go, OIM, and he said, hi, this is, I won't say his name, from FedEx, and he says, I'm not live, am I? And I said, no, you're not live. And he said, right, he said, has anybody been in contact with you over the paperwork? And I said, not at all. I said, nobody's called me. And he said, right, he said, I'm just ringing you on behalf of the paperwork so we can, sort it out and have a talk about it. So anyway, to cut a long story short, we agreed that I will pay the customs fee, but as a very, very kind gesture of FedEx, they would waive the advancement fee. All right. Now, but here's the rub, and people need to know about this. And the chap did send me an email. I asked him to send the email over to me, and he has done. And people, you need to be aware of this. And I didn't know anything about it. I'm just looking for the link here. And you need to go to the website revenue.ie/en/leaflets/PN for Papa November 1882.html. Okay, now I'll cut and paste that link and I'll put it into the chat room while I'm talking here if I can. Steve, will you take it from the chat room and then pop it into PIR as well?
I will indeed.
Okay, now that link that we've put in there, the reason why he said the system now seems to have changed, and you have now brokers involved with doing deliveries. So if the company in America uses FedEx, they obviously take on a brokerage fee, and this is in the website on revenue. So this brokerage fee is called the advancement fee, and obviously they pay customs. The representative from FedEx said that if it's a small amount of charge, FedEx will pay it before the delivery is even sent, or near enough when the delivery is being sent. So it will speed up the process of the person getting the delivery, and then the person is billed for the customs fee. Now, in the past, when I've ordered things from the States, I've actually got some kind of letter or email or whatever saying, please go down to the local post office and pay your customs charge and you'll get your goods. And that's what I was used to. But the postman come and delivered the product, and then we got the letter from FedEx, and this is what FedEx said. So it's not anything that FedEx has done. This is going on between all the other delivery companies as well. It's a change of the system. So just because you order from America and you pay a delivery charge doesn't mean that it stops there. You're going to get charged possibly a brokerage charge from the courier, and obviously customs if it applies. So just be aware of that. Now, I'd like to thank FedEx for waiving the advancement fee, because I wasn't aware of it, and I was quite adamant that I wasn't going to pay it, especially when you actually send a letter and go, look, I'm happy to pay the fee, but show me the customs charge from customs direct, not from you guys, but from customs, and then show me what this advancement fee is. So they rang, we sorted it out, so they're going to rebill me, credit the advancement fee, and I'll only pay the customs charge on that. So just a word of warning for people that if you are kind of ordering goods outside of Ireland, that if you do get that kind of fee, now this is a one-off that they waived for me. They said that doesn't apply to everybody, they just did it for me because maybe I kicked up a stink about it too much. But just to be aware that if you do see that, that's what's going on. Check out the website, the one I just read out there. It's all in revenue. So I don't know why. I don't know why that system's come in, but it just makes me think: will I order from outside of Ireland or outside of Europe now because of this fee that you're potentially being charged? What you also need to do is, if you have to order from outside of Ireland, contact the company you're going to order from and ask them, because it'll probably be in their terms and conditions that they actually do this kind of fee charging. I didn't know about it, so I didn't go and check the terms and conditions because I wasn't aware of it. So you need to email them before you order something and say, am I going to be charged this fee when I order something? So something to check out anyway. Okay.
Of course, just thinking if for anyone who's going to order the Spooky2, I mean, that's coming from China, so chances are that fee will be applied. Well,
I don't know whether it's got to do whether they use the postal service or a courier. If they use US mail, chances are you might get charged the customs, but you won't get charged the fee. But if they use FedEx or UPS or any one of them, then that's where the fee is probably put on. I don't know. Yeah,
actually, Lynn said something there, and I remember that being the case before. I think I said this to you during the week. We years and years ago, we bought some stuff in from America, toys for it was a Christmas present for my daughter at the time. She was a young baby, and I think it would have been Toy Story goods and whatever you have. But I think if you spent over £100 at the time, you were charged a luxury tax or whatever it was for an import duty. I think it was import duty. And I remember someone telling me that it was €100. Anything over the value of €100.
That's right. It used to be, yeah.
Yeah. From what Lynn is saying here now, it's now down to 20. So I'm guessing obviously we've moved into the pounds from pounds to euro. So it's obviously €20 now. So I'm sure you wouldn't get much for less than €20. So pretty much everything you buy that's not from the EU, if it's like America or Asia, you're going to have to pay this.
And that's sneaky, isn't it? Again, a sneaky trick by the Irish government.
Yeah, well, it does say on that document that you linked to that this came in May 2016, so it's relatively new, yeah. And obviously just snuck right in there.
Yeah, exactly. Another way to screw taxes off the man in the street. And talking about, leprechauns, Enda Kenny having a go with Trump. Did you see that?
The speech,
yeah,
the famous speech.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Trump looked a little bit uncomfortable. And of course, Enda Kenny, it's I can't look at that man because you look at him and you kind of think he's allegedly representing everyone in Ireland. and he's not representing us.
It's scary, isn't it?
He is scary.
Yeah, it is scary. I mean, you don't go over to somebody's house and then insult them, do you? Because,
Not if you want to be invited back for a second time, no.
Exactly, yeah. I think he rubbed up Trump the wrong way, making that comment. But maybe he was told to do it by somebody in Europe, that he has to go over and do it.
But you look, this time next year, I don't think Anna Kenny will be in the same position that he is at the moment.
The other thing that was just out there on the net, which I'll just mention, Donald Trump is using steep budget cuts to wage an all-out war against science. And one of the biggest losers will be cancer research programs. Trump's devastating cuts to the National Institute of Health are going to set cancer research back in America for decades. That was somebody's comment on that. And everybody underneath that said, what are you talking about? We've had the cure for cancer since the 1930s. And people start talking about CBD, Rife, and everything else. It really is amazing. It really is amazing. Right, the guest on the show for next week is Dr. Terry Walls. Dr. Terry has been on the show before. She suffered from MS, and she was in a wheelchair and everything, suffered from the whole lot, and she fought back. She went and did the research to find out what the body needed to get back to, as best she could, normal health. Excuse me. And she's about 95% there when we last spoke to her. So she now produced a book called the Wallace Protocol, and it's all about healthy eating and what you have to look for. And the other thing that she said, and I remember this distinctly from on the show, was that she was a vegetarian for 20 years, but she went back to eating meat, which we found interesting at the time when we were talking to her. Now, the original interview is on our YouTube channel, so if you want to check that interview out before next week and have a listen, you can do. But she fought back from MS. So all these kind of ideas coming out now regarding, how to cure yourself, either using Terry's Way or using the Spooky2 or CBD or whatever, I mean, it's brilliant that all this technology and all this information is coming out. So we're going to have Dr. Terry on next week, and we're going to get an update on her condition, how she's got on, if anybody else that she knows that she's treated or have taken on her book, whether it's benefited them and it's helped them, because you do see it around. And, if you see somebody that suffers from MS, you don't know whether to go up and talk to them and go, by the way, there's X, Y, and Z, because they could look at you and think, oh, he's another bloody nutter, go to Google and type up, health. And sometimes they can be closed-minded about it and just think that once the doctor says you can't be healed, that's it. That's your life, accept it, end of story. And what can you do when you have people like that? I don't know. As I'm looking at Steve going,
sorry. Oh, sorry. No, I wasn't aware that was obviously a visual.
We have that kind of...
The visual cue was,
cue.
Where I'm supposed to be looking at you, hanging on your every word, and you go, you know what I mean? And I go, yes, I know what you mean. Yeah. Sorry, I was reading the chat room.
But we have two screens and so many things going on here at the moment. It is a studio designed for two.
You want to restock that beer fridge again? It's running low.
Did you not notice the tidy up in the studio? Does it no, obviously no.
No, not really. No,
obviously. Okay, no, you didn't. There is a bit of tidy up in the studio. So that's the guest plan for next week. What have you got planned during the week? Or do you have anything planned during the week?
I do hope I'm going to hopefully start the treatment with the castor oil tomorrow. Now I've already done one video, but there's no point in putting up one video unless you have a follow-up video, which I don't. So the first video was just the stuff when it arrived damaged, and there was kind of some spilled in the bag, which I did rub into my bonds, but nothing happened, I don't think. So I'm going to start that during the week with the help of my dearly beloved. Hopefully she'll hold the camera and we'll get that going. And we'll see where it goes. But look, sure, if the castor oil doesn't work on the outside, maybe or on the head, there's loads of other applications that it can be used for. So I'll definitely try it out. As I did say, it's supposed to be very beneficial for arthritis, which my mother-in-law suffers with. So I'll let her rub some into her hands as well. And
give it a try. I've got a great business idea, right?
Yeah.
If we get the Spooky2 and we do it on your hair and it works, right? We'll rebrand it and call it the Hairy 2 and sell it.
With a picture of me and you on the front.
You can be like us after 2 weeks of treatment. Right, it's
because
that time.
you're worth it.
Because we're worth it. All right, take care of yourself. From Alan James. Have a safe week. Have a great week. If you have any news, let us know. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, from myself, Stephen George, it's been a hoot. So, looking forward to Terry Walls next week with the Walls Street Journal. Bit of a joke there. Anyway, thanks to everyone who is on the chat rooms, both of the chat rooms, OAM and People's Internet Radio. It's nice to have you in. And as I forgot to mention at the top of the show, if you're listening to the podcast and you're new to Open Your Mind Internet Radio and you just want to let us know where you're tuned in from, just drop us a quick one-line email to info@oymradio.com. And we really appreciate all the emails that we do get. So for myself, Stephen George, take care. We'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye.